AA for what my mom found after leaving me alone for a month with only $40? My name is Grace. I am 11 years old, and at the end of June last year, when there were still a few days left before summer vacation, my mom went to Europe for a month and left me only one thing in my hand. 4 wrinkled $10 bills. "You are big now," she told me with a fixed smile, pulling the handle of her suitcase toward the door. "You are not a baby. If you need something, just order food delivery. You are big now." That was her phrase, not mine. I stood there looking at the money in my palm. $40. That was not a plan. It was not a babysitter. It was not even a real goodbye, just a quick kiss on the forehead, the sound of the little wheels going down the driveway, and the door closing as if my face was in the way. "I am going to be fine," I said out loud to the empty hallway, as if saying it would make it true, but my hands were shaking. There was no one else in the house, no one to cook, no one who knew I had been left alone. I tried to think of it as a challenge, something I could win. Day 1, I told myself, I will show them that I can do this. I organized the few cans in the pantry, checked the refrigerator, which was already half empty, and swallowed my fear as best I could. If my mom said I was big now, then I was going to see what that really looked like, because as the days passed, that money was going to disappear, the food was going to run out, and the silence of the house was going to change. It was no longer going to be just loneliness. It was going to be something worse. And when they finally returned, what my mom would see inside the house would make her whisper, No, this cannot be happening." The first blow hit me about 10 minutes after the Uber left. My mom, before leaving, had left an emergency debit card on the kitchen counter as if that fixed everything. It looked new and shiny, as if that meant something. There was one detail. The card was not activated for purchases, or at least not how she thought. It had no personal identification number, it had no access to the bank app, and no one explained anything to me. I found out the hard way. I stood at the door with my cell phone in my hand trying to order something to eat, and watched as the app rejected the card over and over again. I tried another option. The same thing happened again and again, as if the card were a worthless piece of plastic. So there I was, alone with a useless card and $40. Day 1, I turned it into a game. I cut the loaf of bread as thin as I could. I carefully spread peanut butter on it, almost transparent, and repeated to myself that people who survive know how to stretch things. I even made a joke in my head. Someday this will be a story. By day 3, I was no longer laughing. The pantry looked like a before photo in a hunger commercial. A couple of cans that I did not even know how to open without hurting myself. A box of cereal with more air than cereal. A jar of pickles that always disgusted me. My stomach was growling so loud that I felt embarrassed, even though there was no one there. I turned on the television and left whatever was playing on so the house would not creak in silence. I opened my mom's laptop and saw her work emails piled up as if they were more important than anything else. At one point I grabbed my notebook and wrote in big letters on the first page, "Evidence below." I wrote quickly, "Alone at 11, $40. No food plan, no one checking." I did not know exactly what I was going to do with that, but writing it moved something inside me. If they thought I was old enough to stay alone, then I was old enough to remember everything, to keep it all, to show it to someone someday, to make it clear that they chose a trip over me. That night, with the kitchen light off and only the glare of the cell phone on my face, I opened the camera. "Day 3, I said softly, looking at myself on the screen. My face looked smaller than I expected. I am still alone. I have no one to ask to bring me food. I cannot go far alone and I am scared. Yesterday I ate the last decent thing in the refrigerator." I swallowed hard. If you are watching this, it is because someone finally asked what happened to me. I saved the video and locked the cell phone. My heart was beating in my throat. A part of me wanted no one to ever see it. Another part wanted that video to blow up in my mom's face when she returned. I thought of my best friend Avery, and hovered my finger over her name. If I wrote to her, I would have to tell the truth, that my mom left me, that I was hungry, that I was not okay, so I sent something normal as if everything was perfect. "How are you doing? What have you been doing these days?" She did not reply. Maybe she was with her family somewhere, eating, laughing, not checking her cell phone. My stomach tightened, but not from hunger, from that ugly feeling you get when you realize you are truly alone. By day 5, the hunger was already like a fog in my head. I got dizzy if I stood up too fast. I found a half-empty bag of cereal at the back of the cabinet and ate it dry by the handful, trying to make each handful last. I opened my notebook and added another line. Day 5. Mom does not call or send a message. Then another. If I disappear, this proves it was not my fault. That was where my way of thinking changed. It was no longer just about surviving until they returned. It was about thinking what was going to happen to them when people finally understood what they had done. At school that same day, 2 things happened to me that still make me angry to remember. In the first class, I zoned out as if my head was full of cotton, and in physical education, when I stood up quickly, my vision blurred. The teacher sat me down, gave me water, and looked at my face. "Did you eat?" she asked me. I nodded out of pure shame. A while later, the secretary called my house. No one answered. They called my dad's phone. Neither. They tried the number listed as my mom's work contact. Nothing. That day they did not tell me everything, but I knew. From the way they looked at each other. Something did not add up to them. Day 7. My body already felt weak, but my anger did not. I walked slowly to the window and looked out at the street of the subdivision. Kids on bikes, a dog barking at a UPS truck, a couple walking by with to-go coffees in their hands. Normal lives, normal parents. I saw our empty driveway and whispered, "You chose Europe instead of me. Do you know how much it will cost you when someone finds out?" As if the universe had heard me. The doorbell rang. I froze. I had crumbs on my fingers. Almost no one rang our doorbell. The neighbors we knew would knock on the door, and it rang again. Then 3 quick knocks. My heart jumped into my throat. I walked toward the door as if the floor were loose. For a second I thought about pretending I was not there. If it was someone selling something, they would leave, but another idea crossed my mind stronger. What if someone finally sees me? With a trembling hand, I grabbed the doorknob. If you were 11 years old, hungry and completely alone, would you open the door or keep pretending everything is fine? I opened just a crack. Outside was a man in a green polo shirt with my school's logo embroidered on it. It took me a second to place him without the classroom behind him. "Hello, Grace," he said softly. "I am Mr. Bennett, the school counselor. We have been looking for your parents. They are not answering. Can I come in for a bit?" My first impulse was to lie, to say that everything was fine, that my parents had just gone out, that I did not need anything. But my hand loosened on the door. I stepped aside. "Yes," I mumbled. "I guess." He walked in and looked around. And suddenly the silence of the house weighed more. The plates in the sink, the almost empty counter, the fruit bowl with 2 old apples. Everything became evidence, even though I had not planned it. It was as if the house spoke for itself. "Are your parents working?" he asked, looking at the living room, waiting for someone to appear. "They are in Europe," I said. And my voice came out flat, as if I was tired of feeling. "In Europe?" He raised his eyebrows. "And who are you with?" I swallowed hard. That was the moment. The point where I could protect them or tell the truth. I squeezed my shirt with my fingers. "With no one," I confessed. "I am alone. They said I am big now." Something changed in his face, as if a light bulb turned on. The kind concern turned serious. He pulled up a chair and sat at the dining room table, motioning for me to sit across from him. "Grace, how long have you been alone?" "Almost a week," I said quietly. "Do you have food, money?" A small bitter laugh escaped me. Not even I recognized it. "They left me $40 and a card that does not work." He stared at me for a long time. It was not the look of when a student makes a mistake. It was something heavier, as if he were counting all the ways this was wrong. "This is not right," he finally said. "You know that, right?" I shrugged, even though my chest hurt. "They say they needed a rest, that I am mature, that I can handle it." "And how has that been going for you?" I wanted to say fine. I wanted to keep pretending, but my notebook was right there on the table, and the word evidence looked at me as if it belonged to someone else. "I have been hungry," I said, "and scared, and I have been writing just in case." "Just in case what?" "Just in case something happens to me," I replied almost in a whisper. "So that no one says they did not know." The silence settled between us. This time it was not a silence that ignored me. It was a silence that someone was listening to with me. Mr. Bennett leaned forward. "Grace, Leaving an 11-year-old girl alone for a week, and with the intention of it being a month without a responsible adult with little food and no supervision, is not just a bad idea. It is dangerous. It is neglect of care. My ears were ringing. Words I had heard on television, not in my kitchen. And what happens if someone finds out? I asked. My voice became very small. They have to be notified so they can protect you, he answered carefully. Child Protective Services can intervene. They do verification and protection measures. Your parents could face serious consequences. There was the word I had not dared to say out loud. Consequences. I repeated slowly. For what they did to me. He did not say, do not think like that, nor did he fill me with empty phrases. He nodded. For what they did to you. My head started racing. I imagined my mom's face when she arrived and saw strangers in the living room, people asking questions she could not dodge with a fake smile and a, "You are big now." I imagined my notebook, my videos, the empty pantry. "Do you want help, Grace?" he asked me softly. Real help, not just going to buy something. Help so this does not happen again. I hesitated. A part of me wanted to say no, close the door, wait out the month and pretend nothing happened. Another part, the one that wrote evidence, was tired of pretending. Yes, I finally said. But if I say yes, what does it mean for them? That they will have to answer for their decisions. He replied, that adults will finally see what you are living. I looked at him. I felt the notebook glued to my arm as if it weighed a lot. Then help me, please, I said. I want them to see exactly what they did. I want them to feel what it is like to lose control. He nodded firmly once. First we make sure you are safe, and then we make the right people listen to your story. He took out his phone and stepped away a bit toward the hallway to make a call. I stayed seated with the open notebook. I managed to hear pieces of his voice, low and controlled, but that was enough for me. Girl alone, 11 years old, no adult, almost no food. I ran my finger over the ink of the word evidence. It no longer felt like a secret notebook. Felt like a case file. A few minutes later he returned. I called a neighbor of yours, Mrs. Anderson, and I already channeled the report so they can come verify and take measures. But first we have to get you something to eat. My cheeks warmed up. I felt embarrassed that they were checking me as if I were a broken appliance. But I also felt something else, a little spark of satisfaction. If they were coming for me, they were also going to see them. Is Mrs. Anderson angry? I asked. No, he said. She is worried. That is what good neighbors do. There was a knock on the door, softer than the previous one. Mrs. Anderson came in and looked me up and down. Her eyes went to the notebook, to the empty cereal box, to my pale face. Oh, Grace, she exhaled. Why didn't you tell me? Because I didn't want to look weak, I blurted out without thinking. They always tell me I can handle anything, that I am mature. I thought asking for help was failing them. Her face softened. Asking for help is not weakness, she said. It is surviving. And sometimes it is the only way adults take responsibility for what they do. That phrase hit me. That adults take responsibility. The three of us sat down and for the first time I did not feel like a child being talked down to. They asked me to tell them everything and I did. The sound of the suitcase, the money, the card that did not work, my mom's laugh when I asked her who was going to stay with me. You will be fine, she told me. As if it were a joke. You can handle it alone. As I spoke, Mrs. Anderson's jaw clenched. Mr. Bennett wrote things down in a notebook. Can we show this? I asked, touching my notebook. Yes, he said. And I want you to keep writing. What you felt, what you ate, what you tried. Every time you wanted to talk to them, everything you remember so they do not flip it later. So they don't say I am exaggerating, I mumbled. Exactly, he replied. You have the right to protect yourself with the truth. That phrase tightened my chest. Protect myself with the truth. Later, a woman with a badge arrived, polite but serious. She introduced herself calmly. I am Ms. Carter, a social worker from Child Protective Services, she said. I am here to verify the situation. She asked to check the house. She looked at the almost empty refrigerator, the trash can with nothing but wrappers, the emergency debit card on the counter. She did not need to say much. Her face said it all. How long have your parents been away? she asked softly. 7 days, I answered. It was going to be a month. Who checks on you? No one. Until today. Did they call? No, not since they went to the airport, I said. She sent a photo from Paris with a heart. And that's it. Miss Carter nodded slowly. Then she turned to Mr. Bennet and Mrs. Anderson. Thank you for notifying us, she said. While they were talking, I stepped away for a second, put my cell phone on the counter and opened the camera again. I recorded the empty refrigerator, the lonely table, Miss Carter's bag on a chair. This is what the house looked like when they finally realized I was alone, I said to the camera. This is what my mom is going to find when she returns. I saved the video in my pocket. I was no longer just surviving alone. I was leaving a record. Miss Carter came back to me. For now, you are not going to be alone again, she said. We are going to issue a protection measure. You are going to stay with Mrs. Anderson while we locate your parents and define the next steps. Mrs. Anderson squeezed my shoulder softly. Do you agree? The social worker asked me. I thought of the empty house, the long nights, my mom's last message, which talked more about the trip than about me, and I thought of something else. What she was going to feel when she arrived and found, not a waiting girl, but a case file waiting for her. Yes, I said. I want to be in a place where I am not invisible. That night I packed clothes in a backpack and put my notebook in. Before leaving my room, I looked one last time at my posters, my old stuffed animal, the window to the street. This was the place you left, I whispered, imagining my mom hearing it later. But it is not going to be the place you find when you return. Moving to the house next door should feel like nothing, just a few steps down the shared sidewalk in a patch of yard. But crossing over with my backpack and my notebook felt like crossing a line I could no longer walk back from. I was no longer the girl in the middle. I was a girl someone decided to take care of. Mrs. Anderson's house smelled like laundry soap and vanilla. Her table had tablecloths. Her refrigerator was full of real food, not leftovers stuck in corners. My stomach growled before I could control it. That gets fixed first, she said as if she had not heard. Let's go. We are going to cook. We went to the grocery store with reusable bags. This time she did not buy at random. She let me choose pasta, sauce, vegetables, bread, fruit, things that last, things that make a kitchen look like a home. Keep the receipts, Mr. Bennet said when we were putting things away. They served to show what was not there before today. We put the receipts in my notebook, behind the pages where I had written about the hunger. Evidence layer upon layer. While we cooked, the sound of the boiling water and the garlic in the pan enveloped me like something I missed without knowing it. Have you made spaghetti like this? Mrs. Anderson asked me. Not really, I admitted. My mom almost always heats things up or we order out. Then today you learn, she said, smiling. You learn to feed yourself well. No one can take that from you. I stirred the sauce, watching how the pan painted itself red, and I felt strange, as if the anger was finally going somewhere. Later, well into the afternoon, Miss Carter returned with questions. She asked me for messages and schedules. The last time they called me, I showed her the photo with the Eiffel Tower in the background and a text. Finally free for a month. Free from what? She asked. I stared at the screen. From me, I guess, I said. She wrote something down without looking at me too much. Do you want to say something directly to your parents? She asked me. Sometimes we include a letter from the girl or boy. My throat closed up. Then I felt my notebook under my arm and the answer came out clear. Yes, I want them to know exactly how it felt. I sat down and wrote while the pasta was cooking. You said I was big enough to be alone, but being big does not mean I do not get hungry. It does not mean I do not get scared. You tell everyone how much you work, but you did not see when I was counting crumbs. I took a breath and continued. When you read this, other adults will have already seen what you did. They will see the empty refrigerator, the card that did not work, and this notebook where I had to write my own lack of care. If there are consequences, it is not because I betrayed you. It is because you left me. When I finished, I handed the paper to Miss Carter. Will you make sure they see it? Yes, she said. And I am going to do it. That night I had spaghetti for dinner and the first bite almost made me cry. It was hot. It was real. And it tasted like something I had not felt in days. Safety. This is normal, I thought. Not sitting on the floor eating dry cereal in a quiet house. Mr. Bennett stayed a while longer and we talked about school, books, silly things like the worst food they had given us in the cafeteria. For an hour I almost forgot that my life was breaking apart in the house next door. But when it got late and the adults spoke softly in the living room, I managed to hear pieces. Temporary measure, investigation, supervised visits. I did not understand every word, but I understood the idea. My parents had treated my absence as a break from being responsible. Now there was a real possibility that they would lose the right to call themselves my guardians without someone watching them. In the guest room where I was going to sleep, I put my cell phone on a chair and recorded again. Day 7, I said. But it is different now. I am not in my house. I am in a safe place. They already know. They already saw. I looked at myself on the screen. If you are my mom and you are watching this, remember something. You always told me that decisions have consequences, that if I made a mistake I was going to face it. This time it is your turn. I stopped the recording and lay down looking at the ceiling. I did not feel light. I was aching. I still missed the idea of having parents who stayed, but I also knew something new. I was no longer defenseless. The days at Mrs. Anderson's house felt unreal at first. I woke up to the smell of breakfast, not with a growling stomach. Someone asked how I slept. They did not assume that I could handle everything. But there was a countdown. Everyone knew it. I did too. My parents were going to return and at some point they were going to have to walk into everything they left behind. The second night, around 8, my phone vibrated while I was doing homework at the table. A number I recognized appeared on the screen, my mom's work phone. I kept looking at it until the screen went dark. Are you not going to answer? Mrs. Anderson asked softly. My hands twitched. What if she is just calling to scold me for ruining her trip? Then you will listen to her, sure, she said. But you do not have to speak alone. I answered and put it on speaker. Grace, my mom's voice came out harsh, not worried. What is going on? Why am I getting an email from Child Protective Services? Why is the school involved? Do you have any idea how this looks for me? There it was. Not, are you okay? Not, are you safe? She said, how does it look for me? I swallowed hard. They are involved because you left me, I replied. My voice trembled, but it came out. You went to Europe for a month. You left me alone with $40 and a card that did not work. They already saw the house. They already saw the refrigerator. They already saw everything. You are exaggerating, she answered quickly. There was food. You know how dramatic you are. And you are 11 years old. You are not a baby. I cannot believe you are turning people against us. Do you understand what you are doing to our reputation? I saw Mrs. Anderson clench her jaw. She stepped closer to the phone so her voice could be heard. I am Mrs. Anderson, your neighbor. I am the one who bought food because your daughter had almost nothing. This is not about reputation. It is about safety. On the other side, there was a sharp inhale. Why are you getting involved? My mom sounded offended. This is a family matter. Grace, is she okay? I looked at my open notebook. On one page it read 7 days without a call. No, I said, cutting her off before they could continue. I was not okay. I am not okay with what you did. There was a silence. For a second I thought she was finally going to listen to me. But then her voice returned tight. We will talk about this when we return. And we are going to have a very serious conversation about consequences, young lady. And she hung up. Mrs. Anderson touched the cell phone and silenced it before it vibrated again. She is right about one thing, she said softly. There are going to be consequences, but not just for you. The next day, Miss Carter pulled me out of school for a moment. We sat in an office that smelled like markers and old coffee while she reviewed things on a tablet. Your parents moved up their return, she told me. They are going to be here in 3 days, not 3 weeks. My heart flipped. One part felt relieved. Another part understood the reason. They were not coming back for me. They were coming back for them. What is going to happen when they arrive? I asked. We are going to meet at the house, she said. I will be there and a supervisor, Supervisor Brooks. Mr. Bennett is going to go as a representative of the school. We want you to be there if you feel safe. I thought about hiding in Mrs. Anderson's house and letting the adults resolve it. I thought about getting into my room and pretending to be asleep. That felt like going back to being invisible. No, I said slowly. I want to be there. I want them to see me. I want them to see what they are returning to. She nodded. Then we are going to make sure you have a voice in that room. The next 2 days we prepared without calling it preparation. We did not practice lines like a school play. We organized facts, copies of my letter, pages from the notebook that I allowed them to use, grocery receipts, screenshots of messages and photos of the trip, logs of unanswered calls. This is not to punish them for the sake of punishing, Miss Carter told me. It is so that you are safe. What happens comes from their decisions, not from you. I understood. But another part of me, the one that remembered the dry cereal in the dark, could not pretend it did not feel like something else. It also felt like justice, like holding up a mirror. The morning they were going to return, we went into my house early, before the heat got heavy. It smelled like stale air. My stomach churned, but I walked through every room. That was my scene. I could not look away. Miss Carter put a thick folder on the kitchen table. To the side she left my notebook open to the first page. Evidence. My phone was next to it, turned on. The first video, the one from day 3, was paused on the screen. My tired face looked at me from there. Are you sure you want this ready when they arrive? She asked me. Yes, I said. They always say if there is no proof it does not count. This is my proof. Mrs. Anderson stood near the door, arms crossed but with kind eyes. Mr. Bennett leaned on the counter with his badge visible. Supervisor Brooks was calmly reviewing the folder. We heard the car before we saw them. The tires in the driveway, doors closing, a distant laugh. For an instant my legs felt weak. Miss Carter approached me. Remember, she told me softly. You no longer have to protect them from the truth. If they try to make you feel guilty, look at me or look at Mrs. Anderson or Mr. Bennett. You are not alone in this room. I took a breath. The lock clicked. The handle moved. This was the moment when everything splits into before and after. If you were where I was, would you run to hug them and pretend nothing happened? Or would you stand firm and let them face what they did? The door opened and my mom came in first, pulling her suitcase. Just like when she left. My dad came in behind her carrying bags, talking fast, as if the world owed them an easy landing. They stopped when they saw us. Their smiles died halfway. My mom's eyes jumped from the folder to the supervisor, from Mr. Bennett to Mrs. Anderson, and then to me, standing next to the open notebook and the lit cell phone. What is this? My mom demanded, letting go of the suitcase handle. What is everyone doing in my kitchen? Supervisor Brooks stood up calmly. Ma'am, sir, she said. We are here to talk about Grace's situation. Please take a seat. My mom did not sit down. She looked right at me. Hard. Grace, what did you tell them? For a second the old impulse came to me. To shrink, to apologize, to change the story so she would not get angry. But she saw on the screen that tired little Grace saying, I am still alone. I lifted my chin. I told them what happened, I answered. I told them the truth. My dad tried to assert himself with the tone he always used when he wanted everything to end quickly. This is getting out of hand, he said. It is a misunderstanding. We left food, money, a card. She is a capable girl. At her age, she knows how to take care of herself. Miss Carter placed a piece of paper on the table and turned it toward them. This is the record of that card, she said. It was not activated as you claim. It was declined multiple times when Grace tried to use it. Then she showed another paper. These are photos of the refrigerator and the pantry. A week after your departure, there was not enough food for an unsupervised minor. Plus there were expired products. My mom finally sat down, more out of shock than cooperation. Just because something is expired does not mean she was starving, she blurted out. We were only gone a week. Yes, we checked. Miss Carter slid over another paper. These are your call and message logs. A photo from the airport. A photo from Paris. There are no calls asking if she ate, if she was safe, if there was an adult with her. My dad's face went pale. He looked at the papers, then looked at me. We told you to order food, Grace. We trusted you. I looked at him without shouting. You trusted me to survive, I said. But you did not trust yourselves to be parents. Mrs. Anderson took a step forward, unable to hold back anymore. When we found her, she was dizzy. She told me she did not come to me because she did not want to fail you by needing help. Do you understand what you taught her? My mom looked at everyone, pressing her lips together. You are exaggerating everything, she said. She writes. She likes to make things up. I am sure she dramatized her notes. Supervisor Brooks looked at me and then looked at the phone. Grace, do you feel comfortable showing what you recorded? My hand shook a little when I grabbed the cell phone, but I did it. I hit play. The kitchen filled with my small voice from days before. Day 3. I am still alone. The card does not work. Yesterday I ate the last decent thing in the refrigerator. If you are watching this, it is because someone finally asked what happened to me. The camera moved around the kitchen. Almost empty shelves, the lonely box of cereal, the silence. My mom covered her mouth. My dad kept staring as if his shoulders were sinking. No, my mom whispered, taking a step back as if the video had pushed her. No, this cannot be happening. But it was, and this time she could not pretend she did not see it. Ms. Carter folded her hands over the folder. Based on the verification, the school's information, the neighbor's testimony, and Grace's documentation, we determined that there was a severe lack of care. As of today, the protection measures are maintained. Grace will not be left in your care without supervision while the investigation is completed, and the case plan is defined. My mom shook her head desperately. You cannot take my daughter away from me over a misunderstanding. We just needed a rest. Do you know how much we work? The stress we have. I took a breath and stepped forward. Yes, I know, I said. You tell me all the time. You tell your friends, your coworkers, everyone. But when I was alone, hungry and scared, you did not tell anyone. You did not even say where I was. My mom's eyes filled with tears. Grace, you do not understand, she said with a broken voice. Adults need time too. We thought you were going to be fine. We did not want to hurt you. Those words had followed me all my life, and along with them, the phrase that always finished it off when I made a mistake. Decisions have consequences. And I threw it back. You always told me that decisions have consequences, I said firmly without shouting. That if I chose something, I had to face what came. This is what you chose. This is what your decision looks like. A silence fell that could not be covered up. My mom looked as if the floor had disappeared. My dad grabbed the back of a chair as if it were the only stable thing. Supervisor Brooks spoke in a clear tone. You will have the opportunity to participate in parenting guidance, evaluations, and supervised visits as determined. This is not to punish you forever. It is to ensure that Grace is safe and that it does not happen again. My mom looked right at me, already crying. Please, she said. Tell them you want to come home. Tell them we will fix it. We can start over. We can be better. I wanted a part of me. I wanted the part that remembered some Christmas Eve, some laugh, some real hug. But another part, the one that had sat on the floor with dry cereal, knew that returning without change meant saying that nothing mattered. I want to be safe, I replied. I want to be in a place where they see me before I disappear. Right now that place is not with you. My mom's face crumpled like paper. My dad looked away, blinking rapidly. Miss Carter put a form on the table. For the duration of the measures, Grace will remain temporarily with Mrs. Anderson. You will be notified of the hearing date and conditions. For now, you must not contact her directly outside the established channels. They are on your side, my mom murmured, as if that were the worst thing. I looked at her without hate, but without backing down. No, I said quietly. They are finally on my side. For the first time, we are leaving this house before you do. As I crossed the doorway, I managed to hear my mom crying inside and my dad trying to calm her with words that no longer sounded strong. Walking back to Mrs. Anderson's house, I felt heavy and strange at the same time, as if I were also floating a little bit. I had not destroyed my family. They did it when they chose a month of freedom over a girl who still counted on her parents returning every night. I just refused to cover it up. Weeks later at the hearing, I sat in a room that smelled of paper and old carpet. People talked about risks, protective environments, measures. My parents looked smaller than I remembered, listening to how their decisions were described as if they were pieces of a case. My videos were added to the file. The pages of my notebook were copied. When it was my turn to speak, my voice did not tremble as much as I thought. In the end, it was not a movie scene. There were no sirens. There was no perfect punishment. It was something more real, and that is why it hurt more. Supervised visits were ordered, and it was ordered that they attend guidance and evaluations. They did not lose everything all at once, but they did lose the automatic part. They lost the right to be in my life without anyone watching. They lost that idea that they were the good guys by default. That summer, when I finally got out of school, I learned more than how to make spaghetti. I learned that asking for help is not weakness. And I learned that telling the truth can be the strongest way to defend yourself. Not by screaming, not by breaking things, just refusing to let what happened to you stay hidden. My mom sometimes sends long messages saying that she changed, that she is sorry, that she wants everything to go back to normal. Maybe someday there will be a normal that does not erase what happened. Maybe not. But this I do know. The day she returned from Europe expecting to tell stories and show souvenirs, she found something she never saw coming. A daughter who turned every empty shelf, every unanswered call, every hungry night into evidence. And when my mom whispered, "No, this cannot be happening," I understood something that gave me chills from how clear it was. It had already happened. It had been happening from the moment she chose an airplane ticket over me. Comment. This one really stays with me every time. I want you to know that your worth is never something you have to earn or prove. Standing up for yourself is an important way to honor your own self-respect. It's okay to set clear boundaries, even when it's difficult. Asking for help when you need it shows real courage and wisdom. I'm always moved by how much one person's kindness can change everything for someone else. Taking responsibility for our actions is a sign of true maturity. Healing often starts the moment we choose safety and peace over staying silent. You deserve to be in places where you feel truly seen and cared for. I hope this story encourages you to protect your own peace and speak your truth. If you liked it, don't forget to leave a comment and support the channel by subscribing. See you in the upcoming stories.